From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Stepping up to help out, what a group of farmers and firefighters did after fire broke out at a Pennsylvania dairy. 2 states, 1 crop, 2 different stories.
The yields are really, really good. I've heard yields as high as in the mid-80s.
We've had close to 100-degree weather.
We check in with farmers on how wheat harvest is going, an effort to expand pork processing.
This is the next step.
How producers are doing it for themselves as Pork Week continues right now on AgDay.
Pork Week, paying tribute to the pork producers who bring lean and nutrient-rich pork to your table. Coverage brought to you by Merck Animal Health and the National Pork Board.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Farmers are continuing to work to catch up when it comes to planting following a cold and wet spring. And it looks like they've finally done it. USDA reporting in its latest crop progress report that 94% of the corn crop is now planted. That's 2% ahead of the 5-year average. And we're getting our first look at the corn condition, with 73% of the crop reported as good to excellent. That's 1% better than last year at this time. As for soybeans, 78% of it is now in the ground. That's just 1% behind the 5-year average. And wheat harvest now getting into full swing. USDA says 5% of the winter wheat crop has been harvested. That's just 1% behind the 5-year average there. Texas leading the way with 36% harvested, but only 30% of the crop is rated good to excellent in the 18 states surveyed. Now in western Oklahoma, harvesters are rolling despite high winds and hot conditions. The crop in some areas reported to be short and thin. One farmer telling us he's seeing 10 to 30 bushels an acre so far.
We think the quality's there. The protein is just about kind of around the 11s and 12s. So we think that that's going to be a good milling wheat for everyone, and the seed looks good. That's the other thing, which we were a little bit worried about. Maybe we might have some shrivel, but we did get enough rain to have some kernels that plumped up.
In Louisiana, while the wheat crop was small, the outcome was big. And as Craig Gautreaux reports, Louisiana wheat farmers are finishing up their harvest with good yields and being supported by great prices.
It's been a bumper crop for most of Louisiana's wheat farmers. Good growing conditions and little pressure from a disease called scab, which had drastically decreased wheat acres, led to the good results.
The yields are really, really good. I've heard yields as high as in the mid-80s.
Not only are the bushels per acre high, wheat prices also have been setting records.
This has been a wheat growing year, and the price, as you know, is this morning July wheat was $11.57.
The major price driver has been the uncertainty of the wheat crop in Ukraine, the leader in global wheat exports. While prices are good, it has been one of the most expensive wheat crops to grow this year.
The input costs are high too. Fuel, of course, I don't have to tell anyone what the price of fuel is. Fertilizer costs, or nitrogen in particular, are through the roof.
David Smith farms more than 700 acres of wheat and has just completed his harvest. Smith was pleased with the results.
We're right there in the low 70s, the whole farm, which is really good. Test weight's been excellent. I think the lowest test weight I've shipped off was 61.8 pounds, for the wheat per bushel.
Smith decreased his wheat acres because of scab, but he decided to roll the dice this year and was rewarded.
Now this year we were very fortunate. We upped our acres quite a bit, and prices went up, so we were very lucky on that end of it too.
As soon as Smith completed harvesting, he immediately began planting soybeans into his wheat stubble. He says the stubble acts as a mulch layer and helps retain moisture for the young beans. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
And many folks out harvesting wheat are going to be dealing with record-breaking temperatures. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us with more. Matt.
Yeah, Clinton, and we're going to be talking about heat and humidity down there in the south, especially from eastern Texas all the way through the Gulf Coast. And you can kind of see that on the map right here where we've got that heat and humidity there. A lot of red and orange down there from really Salt Lake City all the way down to southern Texas. Meanwhile, up in the Great Lakes, northern Great Lakes especially, remaining relatively cool. That jet stream keeping things kind of locked in on the cooler side. but that heat and humidity is what we're going to be talking about. And if we look at these temperatures through this afternoon, we're going to be looking at triple-digit heat and potentially record-breaking heat there in parts of Texas. And if we go to Odessa, Texas, that's where they're going to be much above average for the next couple of days. And the high today expected to be about 107 degrees, which if that is hit, that will be a daily high temperature record. And then they're still expecting temperatures near or above the triple digits there over the next couple of days, remaining sunny, dry, and they need the rain there as well. So it's going to be hot and very dry back there in West Texas over the next couple of days. And some folks are still working to get a crop in the ground. Dan Lewis of Gaston, Oregon says it's been a wet spring in the Pacific Northwest, but says they got to go. Hopefully he got a lot planted over the weekend. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Reaction is pouring in after the EPA officially announced new rules regarding the renewable fuel standard and finalized the biofuel blending requirements. Now, starting with renewable fuels levels for this year, EPA setting the number at 20.63 billion gallons. That's down from the 20.77 billion originally proposed, but it left conventional ethanol at 15 billion gallons. As for last year, it increased the proposed rate by 32 million gallons. Now, Farm Journal Washington analyst Jim Wiesmeyer says the uptick comes primarily from conventional biofuel. The EPA also moving to officially deny all 69 small refinery exemption waivers, as it said it would do back in December.
EPA is now trying to make 15 billion gallons of ethanol actually mean 15 billion gallons. And rather than follow the law, I think EPA followed the courts because they were kind of directed of that. And, when you looked at the responses from the ethanol promoted groups, not many, complained at all. And that'll tell you, the answer to how they feel about Friday's announcements.
Wiesmeyer says the EPA is now working on plans for next year's levels. Republican Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa tweeting that the EPA barely met the deadline for the final rule and went back in time to lower biofuel blend levels for 2020, which he said creates uncertainty. We're celebrating pork all week here at Farm Journal in conjunction with the World Pork Expo happening in Des Moines. Now, there's been plenty of talk about expanding processing capacity as of late. And as AgDay national reporter Michelle Rook tells us, a new producer-owned plant planned for South Dakota is scheduled to be operational by 2025.
A new pork processing facility that's being proposed for this site on the north side of Sioux Falls is garnering some opposition. Holstone Farms wants to build a more than $500 million plant on this 170-acre parcel and process nearly 3 million hogs annually, expanding capacity beyond their Nebraska facility.
The Fremont plant, what it was is that the 200 or so producers that own that plant or farmers, had more pigs than what that plant could handle. And so looking at and how do you expand and how do you take that next step? And this is the next step.
Brad and his son Brent are farmer owners, and he says he's been surprised by the pushback on the project.
The Holstone Farms packing plant is truly farmer owned and very local as much as you can get. The farmers that bring the pig to this and are also owners of the plant.
Brent says Holstone's integrated model allowed them to add another barn to their family operation.
I used to work in manufacturing facilities, and through the expansion of the amount of pigs that we've raised, I've been able to come back on the farm, and that's one thing. In order to have the opportunity for young farmers to come back to the farm, there has to be a place for the product to go, whether that's crops or livestock.
The executive director of the South Dakota Pork Producers Council says the project would add shackle space and encourage growth in the region's swine industry.
We're expanding our harvesting capacities in the area, which is definitely going to have an impact as producers can see that they have an outlet close by and eliminate some of the transportation issues that we have.
And that would also increase competition.
We've seen those industries way too consolidated. So to have, like Holstone, a new party come in that is going to take a different model to look at this, I think it's encouraging to see.
Mueller says the opposition is based on water quality and some of the odor issues associated with the outdated Smithfield plant.
Perceptions are that we're going to have a replica of that building, and Some of the technology will be the same, but the ability to control the environment and air quality is going to be entirely different with this new facility.
And it has the potential to add 1,100 jobs and millions of dollars to the Sioux Falls economy.
And that's what we're proud about, not only what the plant will look like, but what it will bring for jobs and what it will bring for all of those things that come with having more, more employment here.
In Sioux Falls, I'm Michelle Rourke reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Holstone began back in 2016 as a vision of Minnesota-based Pipestone, a company that manages sow farms and has production and marketing services designed to support family farming operations. Now, they've also evolved into producer-owned processing. For more of this coverage and all of our Pork Week content, head over to porkbusiness.com. We'll continue the pork conversation next as we look at production and demand ahead of the next inventory report. And later, NASCAR drivers celebrate millions of miles on E15. We hit the track in the country.
Ag Day is brought to you by the Pork Checkoff, celebrating pork and the people who bring it to your table through real pork. More details are available at porkcheckoff.org.
Don Rose with U.S. Commodities joining us. Don, as we look at this kind of pork complex, talk to me a little bit about some of the factors going into whether or not we're going to expand this herd or continue to contract the herd. What are those big factors?
Well, I think when you look at it, Clinton, we've had some real issues, as we know, ever since a couple of years ago with the COVID was a real headache for the producers. And since that time frame, we really haven't seen expansion. In fact, liquidation. So that was a demand supply factor. We all remember how we couldn't, the slaughter was really challenged. So that was a big issue. Then as we moved forward, we got into the grain market that started to move to the upside. But in between times, the supply issues that we've had in a lot of the industry had a hard time finding supplies. Building cost went up. Now interest rates are going up. So that's your cost for building a building is going up. Grain prices going up. So, and then when your exports are flagging south, those are all issues that have really stopped the expansion. But we think now that we may be sending a better signal. Lumber prices down in the last month, 37%. So we may be sending a better signal to, if you're going to expand, try and expand now. And we think we're trying to mildly.
We've talked over the last couple of years quite a bit about China, and you brought up that demand piece, and they were such a big driver of demand for a while. Where are we now in that market as far as demand goes?
Yeah, I think when you look at the demand, China continues to be the cheapest hogs in the world. They're about $50 a hundredweight. To put it in perspective, we're about $105. We've got Europe is running 82, and then we have our neighbors, Canada $71 a hundredweight, and Brazil 68. So we're the highest price in the world, and China's the cheapest. So they're not interested in buying pork here right at the present time. Hopefully they do down the road.
All right, Don, sure appreciate it. Thank you so much for the insights as always. We'll be back with more Ag Day and a check of weather coming up in just a minute.
For all your risk management and trading needs, call one of the U.S. Commodities specialists at 800-247-4071. As your innovative and invested partner, Merck Animal Health is dedicated to the well-being of the swine industry and the people behind it. Merck Animal Health, driven by prevention.
Meteorologist Matt Yurisovic joining us here, taking a look at really where the severe storms may be popping up today. Something we're keeping an eye on, all spring.
Yeah, it's been a very active start to the week, and that's going to continue to be the case right through the middle part of the country, where we've got a chance for a couple isolated tornadoes and some stronger storms, heavier downpours there, especially in that area there, highlighted in yellow through the middle of the country. And that area highlighted from Nashville, Tennessee, all the way through Little Rock, back through parts of Oklahoma and northern Texas, even up into parts of Colorado and most of Nebraska. The chance for some of those scattered storms, keeping it kind of right where that jet stream's coming through and keeping it very unsettled. Some of these parts of the center of the country here, Colorado to Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, even Nebraska, they need the rain. So they could go for the rain, but we could keep the stronger storms out of the way. So here's a look at what this looks like. We've got a big system here moving through the Great Lakes and into the northeast. And then we've got these two lows trailing trailing by. And that right there is going to be the chance for those pop-up thunderstorms as these lows move to the east. So as that happens through the day on Thursday, you'll see those thunderstorms popping up and really following this low over into parts of Tennessee by the afternoon, as this other one kind of remains here just to the east of the Rockies. Meanwhile, over in the East Coast, pop-up thunderstorms going down all the way into Florida, and then again this cold front advancing to the east. That will continue as we head into the day on Wednesday, and these showers and storms moving eastward as well. Still remaining unsettled here in parts of the Great Lakes through Wednesday evening. And then we'll be mostly dry in the west, keeping it very hot and very humid in the south. Here's a look at the rain as we head through this week. A lot going on right in the middle part of the country. Some of these areas, though, really need the rain, so they are going to be thankful for that. But a lot of, really from Tennessee back through Arkansas, Missouri, even to parts of extremely eastern Oklahoma. They don't need that much rain, and they're going to get a lot of it over the next couple of days. But look at the highs down to the south. Temperatures in the triple digits for most of western Texas, and only seeing lows back down into the 70s, maybe even closer to 80 degrees there in Dallas. So very, very warm down to the south. Meanwhile, staying very mild up to the north, and that's where we're going to be unsettled as well. And that's all because of this jet stream, and it's really going to stay this way. Pretty zonal pattern all the way through this week, with a little ridge building in the west through the end of the week. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Canton, Ohio, showers and thunderstorms, a high of 75 degrees. Then we go to Joplin, Missouri. Afternoon thunderstorms are possible, a high of 82 degrees. And Parker, Arizona, sunshine, dry and hot, a high of 107.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineryPete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineryPete.com.
Global food prices are easing, but still near recent record highs. Experts say declines in the price of veg oils, dairy, and sugar more than offset increases in cereal, grains, and meat. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization Global Food Price Index eased for a second straight month. That's after hitting a record high in March, but it was still almost 23% above year-ago levels. Now, compared to year ago, prices are up more than 13% for meat, almost 17% for dairy, and almost 30% for cereal grains. A popular farm for tourists is cleaning up after a fire. Fire crews in Coopersburg, Pennsylvania say they responded to a fire at a large milk house of Marwell Dairy Farm. LehighValleyLive.com reporting that workers at the farm were able to get all the dairy cows to safety as the fire moved in. They were also able to make sure they stayed out of the way so fire trucks could get to the scene. A large group of farmers in the area were able to transport the animals to another farm where they will be for some time. Now, firefighters, they were able to contain the blaze to the barn, and they say there was great teamwork between the firefighters and farmers to battle the flames, protect livestock, and the surrounding buildings. So, are you a NASCAR fan? While the drivers are the focus, it's what's fueling these cars that the ag world is celebrating right now. That's next. One driver is celebrating a big win at the inaugural Enjoy Illinois 300 in Madison over the weekend. The biofuels industry is also celebrating a milestone when it comes to NASCAR racing. Growth Energy says the race marked 20 million NASCAR miles driven on Sunoco Green E15. Now, it's a fuel blended with 15% bioethanol. Growth Energy has been partnering with NASCAR since 2011, and it reports since working together, they have reduced greenhouse gas emissions by 20% across NASCAR's 3 national touring series, while also boosting horsepower on the track. In recognition of the milestone, all of the cars featured a special 20 million miles decal, and driver Austin Dillon ran the number 3 Get Bioethanol Chevrolet for Richard Childress Racing at the track. Now, it was an exciting finish for the race, by the way, with Joey Logano getting a huge jump on the restart with just 2 laps remaining to win. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country.
It's time to sign up for the 2022 United Pork Americas Conference in Orlando, Florida. Register today at unitedporkamericas.com and join us September 7th through the 9th.